particular way. So the first question I really want to ask you is, can you tell me a little bit and us a little bit about your decision to enter politics? And I know it was a tumultuous one from the decision to leave the Legislative Assembly and really push for the creation of the Telangana.
Thank you, Maya. In fact, like millions of young Indians, I too landed up in the US for my formal education. I had already, completed my master's in biotechnology from India. And then subsequently, I also ended up getting a business degree from CUNY, City University of New York. And then I was happily, this was the time when dot-coms were happening. It wasn't the time for, as we call them, startups now. This was the time when we used to call them dot-coms. I was happily working in one of those dot-coms and doing my thing. And then, one thing led to another. There came a time, when my father, who also was the champion, who was the leader, leading the movement for creation of a separate state, had to quit his member of parliament, his seat in parliament. And it became sort of a life or death battle, where his win was something that would really define and decide the future course of that democratic agitation. So this was a time when he was appealing to the youngsters in my state, to rally with him. It seemed a bit, logical and also possibly, also I think just to jump in. And I did leave my job, a very cushy job actually, and ensured that I joined him, but I didn't tell him. Like any father, he would shout at me. So I didn't tell him. I just jumped in, and this was about 19 years ago, in 2006. I think next year would be 2 decades. Do I have regrets about doing this? Once in a while I do, because, politics is a very murky, very interesting kind of field, where you get, a lot of things, where you have both bouquets and brickbats. You have to have the equanimity to handle both. But at the end of the day, if you ask me, was it a right call? I would say absolutely yes, because I think what comes with this position of being in public life, whether you are in government or in opposition, is that immense satisfaction, especially in a growing country, of being able to effect change. And that's something nothing can take away. So yes, mostly it was that, decision that really propelled me into this. Thank you.
So we've already heard from you what an incredible success Telangana has been, but I'd like to ask you a little bit about the origin of that success. So right after you served in several ministerial capacities in Telangana, but one was as IT minister, it was ranked by Niti Aayog as the #1 state for the ease of doing business. And that's a really incredible accomplishment for such a young state. And you mentioned the sort of history of maybe, that a new state was a part of the success, perhaps, because you had a lot of passion, a lot of purpose that was built into the very starting moment. But many people here are from other parts of India, maybe even from Bangalore. And they would so for when you think about what is transferable from the experience of what were the key decisions, the 1 or 2 things that you think are really key that other Indian states should learn from when it comes to what Telangana got right about the ease of doing business?
The most interesting and most heartening thing about India is, India is not a homogeneous country. We are you lived there for a bit, you worked in India as well, you'd know it. It's a very diverse country. Everything changes in India every 200 kilometers. The language, the dialect, the culture, the cuisine. I think even probably the politics. So therefore, I think what needs to come about, or what needs to happen really, if you ask me, is the cohesion that is supposed to bring Indian states together. The cohesive force. Where we learn from each other, where we don't have to reinvent the wheel. That is something that is, I believe, truly missing right now in India. So I would say 2 things. If other states have to emulate and grow and really not leapfrog but pole vault into the next league, I'd say 2 things. 1, leadership, passionate leadership, which is bent on effecting change in the time span that's given to us. And 2, of course, with all the diversity, with all the disconnect that there is between Indian states, I think Government of India playing a role of ensuring the role of a big brother, where you would actually possibly do a SWOT analysis by state and say, you're good at this, stick to this, you're good at this, please do this. And then so there's no stepping on each other's toes, then there's no